I'll say like it's always easy to start without doing too much research on it, because I think as and much you do a lot of research, you try to find reasons why you should not do it, right? And when you try to find a lot of reasons of not doing it, you actually end up not doing it, right? So again, this sounds very philosophical and it sounds very idiotic, but look at the history and take any page out of it, you will find always the founders who started, they didn't know what they were doing, but they eventually figured it out along the way. I'm not saying that you should not do any research. You should at least do a research on whether there's a product market fit. And if it is there, you should basically start working on it today, because if you don't do it and if you see somebody else doing it, you will have a burden of regret in the future, which is not a good thing to have as a human.
Hey everyone, this is Devin Miller here with another episode of The Inventive Journey. I'm your host, Devin Miller, the serial entrepreneur that's grown several startups and 7- and 8-figure businesses, as well as founder and CEO of Miller IP Law, where he helps startups and small businesses with their patents and trademarks. If you ever need help with yours, just go to strategymeeting.com, grab some time with us to chat, and we're always here to help. Now, today we've got another great guest on the podcast, Samir Ranjan. And Samir started his journey getting a bachelor's degree in engineering. I think it was in mining engineering in around 2017. And then also got a master's degree to do with business analytics. And then from there, worked in the business, the mining industry, and automating a lot of their processes. Moved to the US to work for another business, doing a similar job. And then switched to doing business consulting for another business before starting his current venture. So with that much as a introduction, welcome on the podcast, Samir.
Thank you so much, Devin. Thank you so much for having me here.
Absolutely excited to have you on and share your journey. So I just gave a quick snapshot or a quick overview to the much longer journey. So why don't we rewind and unpack a little bit and tell us a little bit about how your journey got started?
Right. So I was always fascinated by entrepreneurship, right? Because it sounds so cool, tough word to write, right? Always people make spelling mistake in entrepreneurship when they write the word. And I thought like it will be very cool to be your own boss, right? One day when you can make millions of dollars and be happy. Little did I know that this is one of the toughest thing to do in the world, because when no one is your boss, you are basically working 24/7, right? But I love the notion of it. When you are creating something, you're creating a value for the people.
So absolutely. Now, before we dive too far into what you're doing today, we got to rewind and unpack the story and start kind of from the beginning, so to speak. So tell us a little bit about how your journey got started going off to college and getting a mining engineering degree.
That's very interesting. My grandfather used to be a mining engineer, right? So I thought like, let's do something very wild and crazy, because I heard in the mining engineering you get to go underground, like thousands of feet under the ground, and you can basically muck the material out. And I did my graduation in mining engineering. That was one of the best times that I ever had, because I got to visit the places where remote places, remote parts of the India, but it gave me a lot of perspective on people, how people think, how people behave, and most importantly, when you are in a remote place, how people interact with each other, because there you see the brotherhood, which is people actually care about each other. And that basically laid down a foundation in my head on how we can make the life of the people easier. And after my graduation, I basically jumped into the business operation consulting, as well as the being the engineer. I got a chance to work with McKinsey and Hindustan Zinc Limited, one of the company in India. They had a joint operation. I was basically, I will lead the shift. At the same time, I will try to optimize few of their processes, like who should work in which shift, what kind of equipment you need to have, how much production you need to do. And I thoroughly enjoyed it, because that was one of the coolest thing that I did, because I was significantly contributing to the revenue of the company. And it feels so good when you are 21 and somebody comes and say, oh, you added $5 million to the company today. And that was like a huge pat on the back, and I was so happy. But mining has its own challenges, right? Which is the heat, the pressure, being in the remote world, very far from the corporate offices or the good clothes, right? You have to wear those flashy clothes, which is like radium built on it. So yeah, my mining was the great thing, and I think it laid a foundation for my next set of journey.
So now you see, you get into initially into mining, you start to kind of work to automate things and kind of go down that path. Now, I think you started out, and correct me where I'm wrong, you started out in India or started out abroad, and then you came to the US to kind of continue to do that. So walk through a little bit as to, kind of what brought you to the US and kind of how that or how that transition between the companies.
Right. So it was very interesting for me in India because I think I was doing a great job. That's what I always believe that I was doing a great job in India, and I was enjoying the process very much. And after a point, it got really easier for me because I knew what I have to do every day, and I was able to complete all the tasks and achieve the said so numbers. One of my McKinsey partner, he saw me, he identified me, he basically coached and mentored me, and he said that don't waste your talent just doing what you are doing so efficiently. Put yourself out of the comfort zone and learn something which is up and coming, that is AI. uh, and this is, I'm talking about 2017, 2018, where AI was still a buzzword, right? We were working on a lot of theories were there around AI, but it was more like a sales word which people will play, that we are AI enabled company or XYZ thing. And I thought, okay, let's learn it. Let's learn more on the data science side of the equation. And he basically recommended one university to me, and I applied there, got the admit, and I landed here in US with two bags, and that, okay, let's make best time of 2 years and try to learn AI and what it is. I didn't had any background in coding or whatsoever, but I had a background in statistics, which before that I didn't know that whole AI is based on statistics. If you add compute to statistics, it basically becomes machine learning. And machine learning, when it gets some prescription, it becomes AI. So yeah, that was my journey basically. One guy just told me not to be in comfort zone, and I thought, okay, let's leave everything. Let's leave a good high paying job and restart my education, which is very different than what I did in my bachelor's, and it actually helped me a lot. So I'm really grateful for that advice very early in my career.
So now you go down that path, and so you start to kind of shift and go into data analytics a bit more and kind of the business analytics. Now, as you get that the master's degree, kind of where did you go from there? Kind of what was the next phase in the journey?
Right. So when I started my master's, everything, most of the things were hunky dory because it was statistics, right? And I liked statistics. But then I saw there are a lot of processes still being done here, even in USA, on pen and paper, like the invoices, like the data sheet, the cleaning people will come and they will mark it on a sheet. And I thought that there is a lot of opportunity where you can basically automate all these processes. So I learned something that we call robotic process automation, which is taking anything that is static and creating it into a web-based thing where the processes are automated. You are automatically filling the data, so there is no issue in data corrections, or you don't have to employ someone just to input the data. And based on that skill, I got my first internship here at American Heart Association, and they were trying to automate their human resource department, which is when you get hired, you get some few mails, you have to do certain things that upload your XYZ documents. So I was basically automating that process for them. And then boom, COVID happens, right? They had to lay off people, and they have to say that, okay, we won't be able to give you salary, and robotic process automation is not the most important thing that American Heart Association wanted to do in 2020. So I got laid off, but it was a blessing in disguise because at the same time, North Texas came up with an idea, the county came up with an idea. Whoever gives them an idea to reopen the economy and basically reopen all the shops that are there in the North Texas, they are going to give them $5,000 as a grant. And I thought that's a great opportunity to use whatever I have learned with McKinsey and statistics and apply it as a business knowledge. And I created a
Mm.
business plan, got my business plan selected. And that was my first nomination for 25 under 25, which is the next innovators under 25 years of age. So that was the first nomination. And that idea is very similar to what Great Clips do today, right? When you go to Great Clips, you have to book the time. But it had a CRM attached to it, which is how many people you need at that hour, how many man force you need, how much material you will need, how much inventory management you need to do. So that was my first conceptual software, which basically helped some way or the other reopen the economy and generated uh, lot of small business ideas, right? Like we can add simple calendar to your business and it will do wonders, because now people are not scared that they will go to a shop and find 100 people there, because they can actually look, okay, only two people are there at the shop. So I'm
Mm.
fairly safe than being in an environment which has 100 people. So that was my first break after my graduation and COVID. So I hear like COVID was bad for most of the people, but the first part of the COVID actually helped me propel in my career. So yeah, that's
So
the
now,
story.
so now you said, okay, we're kind of come along, layoffs, COVID, kind of make or shifting those gears a bit, and you decide, okay, it's a time where I want to, kind of make or shift that gear and go, go the own direction, start to get some initial traction as you, kind of put the business together. Now, as you made that leap, kind of walk us through. Did as you were getting the business going, did it take off like wildfire and just rocket ship to the top? Was it bumpy or figuring things out along the way or having to pivot or adjust or evolve, or kind of walk through that a bit?
Oh, okay. To be very honest, I had no idea what I was doing, right? Because I just created something on the paper, and when I started creating the product, I had no idea how it will shape up, what I need to do. Because, uh, and I think it is true for most of the businesses that I have seen in last 6 years, that whenever we start, we never have any idea that where it will go. We always have a notion that we are creating $1 million company, but we have no idea how to reach there, right? Or how to reach your 100,000, right? First 100,000. So that 3 4 months was terrible for me, because I was not able to understand that what is the next step, how to close the deal, how to close the sale, even where to find the sale, right? Who will be my customers? And when you go and pitch your idea to the first customer, uh, in your head, you think that you have figured out each and every step, but they'll ask you a question which you might not have thought about it. And that breaks the chain of thought, because uh, you can never judge another person's perspective about you or the business or the idea, right? And that was my first learning on sales, because things will not go as you have planned, and you have to always have a backup plan. And I didn't had any backup plan. So I had to shut down that idea. I joined another firm as an intern. So that 3 4 months basically gave me a little
Mm.
bit of firepower on how to create idea, how to create business plan, but it didn't give me anything on how the execution needs to be done. So I joined another startup, which was has been running for like 10 years here in Dallas, known as Fusion Analytics and Consulting, where I met the next important person in my journey of entrepreneurship, my current founder and the CEO of the company, who basically took a chance on me, who took a chance on a 25-year-old that, okay, this guy will be my technical lead. He will do all that stuff. And that that actually showed me how the execution is done, right? How the sales is done, how marketing is done. And then I met my CMO of the company, who is a veteran in the field, and he has done a lot of good work for a lot of bigger clients. He sold his company. Then I understood, okay, this is how merger and acquisition works, this is how buyout works. All those words before that, even I have done my degree from the business school, I had no idea what those words meant, because in real life, merger and acquisition is not like a boardroom deal where 10 people in suit come, shake hands, and get it done. It is a very lengthy process. There is due diligence. And in the due diligence, there is different kind of due diligence. Some is legal, some is which is technical, and some is operational. So all those things I got to learn after I met the right people. So I
Mm.
I, I usually say this, like, If you are meeting the right people at the right time, then only you can have a career. Otherwise, you're just hopping jobs.
So now, no, that makes sense. And a lot of time to jump in, you think you have an idea, so the direction you're going, and then you find out there's a lot of things you didn't know, and you're having to figure that a lot of that out along the way. So it sounds like certainly par for course for starting a business. So now catch us up, kind of now as you've evolved, and hasn't been a considerable amount of water in the bridge, and I'm sure still figuring things out. But kind of where's the business at today, and kind of how have things evolved, and kind of catch us up a bit to the present and kind of where things are at.
Right, right. So after I met these folks at Catenate, and we started Catenate in March of 2021, and it has been what 3 years now. And I think things are looking up because when we started Catenate, this is again an anecdote, which we started with a product called Mira Mira, and we developed that product with heart and soul for 1 year, and then we went out in the market. By that time, the market has moved on. They didn't needed that product because we created a product which was very suited for high school kids, right? But during COVID, there was a huge shift in mentality, right? Because prior to that, people have social media, but they were not that much dependent on social media. We used to have, like, if you remember 2019, the social media was mostly about pictures and photos. 2020, reels came into the play, right? And 2021, everybody was hooked on to the reels, right? They are getting their from education to innovation to invention, everything is happening through the reels, right? America is very big on TikTok, right? People sell on TikTok, right? Nobody had idea how to sell it on TikTok because you don't understand how to get 1 million followers because there is no particular logical algorithm to it, right? If somebody likes your content, they like your content. You might find it cringe. Somebody might find it being worthy of watching it for like half an hour, 1 hour. Podcast came into the play, right? Podcast prior to that was more like a radio, right? People were not into the podcast. Now the podcast became a selling point. So we didn't understood the market, the changing market. And when I say we, I mean like most of the businesses around us also, because everybody was figuring out what SaaS is, right? SaaS has been in the market for a long time, but the boom that it showed in 2020 and 2021, that is what we are seeing it today, that every single person can become a SaaS company. So that's what happened with us. Then we thought, okay, we need to pivot because we had a great foundation on data and how the analytics and the AI needs to work. We pivoted our whole idea from high school to somebody who wants to be hired or managed in a company. And that actually caught fire because people were like, okay, this is what we need. Now we understood that whom we need to talk, who our audience is, where our market is. And then we understood, okay, this is where our market is. This is what they need. So we started understanding the market better. And based on that, we started creating the assets and the things required in the market. To answer your question, where do we stand now? We stand at a place where we are a good valued company, right? We have raised a great term sheets from our investors, and since I don't call us the AI company because most of the AI companies you will see they are all in a very earlier stages of their life cycle that they are still figuring out the idea. But I think we figured out an idea, and now we're figuring out how we can sell it better, how we can add more value to the customers. And I think I have seen it in the long term that if you think about your customers first, you don't need to have a great product. You need to have a great services attached to it so that your customers are happy. And if they are happy, however shitty your product is, it will still do the job because your customers are served at the end of the day.
No, I think it's awesome. So it sounds like you guys continue to get some great traction, head in a great direction, and have or continue to get a sure footing. So before, I always like to wrap up with two questions, but before I do that, kind of if you were to look at the next 6 to 12 months as you continue to grow the business, kind of where do you see the next 6 to 12 months headed for you?
Right. So next 6 months, we are entering into the small and medium businesses, which is basically we created a software which can be very well suited for the large enterprises, right? A company which has more than 2,000 employees or who are hiring constantly. But we have now created a system by which it can be used for even a single employee company or a 20 employee company. So we are looking to capture the small and medium business. We have worked on the pricing very competitively that again, this is a funda that I have learned during the years that if you have a price point and you can serve at that price point the best thing in the world, your product still sells. It is, again, it is, you can create the best product, but if your pricing is wrong, nobody will buy it. So we figured out the pricing, and that's what we are entering in the small and medium business. In next 6 months, to we are trying to capture around 10% of the business that is out there. And when I say 10%, my TAM is very big. My total market is very big. So 10% still makes a big number. Uh, in 12 months down the lane, we have created our own in-house algorithms. So basically, we are trying to create an engine so that anybody can come up and build their own car on top of it and sell it as their own, right? So that's what always my idea is. I'm a technologist, so my whole thing is how I can create an engine, and anybody can come in and create car. I don't mind. I don't want to own the car or the paint or how it looks like, but I want to make the damn best engine in the world, and that's what we are doing, and that's what we are achieving in next 12 months.
Awesome. Well, sounds like a lot of fun opportunities yet ahead, and a great direction to be headed. So that's it sounds like it'll be a fun or exciting 12 months to come. So perfect. Well, with that, now as we do reach kind of the present day of the journey, and even looking at a bit into the future as to where things are headed, great time to transition to or jump to the two questions I always just like to ask at the end of each episode. So the first question I always like to ask is, along your journey, what was the worst business decision you ever made, and what'd you learn from it?
Oh, okay. Worst decision that I ever made was not to fire people quickly, because um, I think the hiring decision is always emotional, right? We hire someone and we have a lot of hopes on them, and we try to give them multiple opportunities to correct themselves. But as a business, it's always cost to you, right? And I didn't understood the concept of cost and time uh, during my early career, but now I do, and that's what I always try to do. I try to find people whom I don't have to go and tell that, okay, this is what you need to do. But I want to find people who are coachable, right? Which is, this is the way, this is what I want. And you figure out the journey there. If they can stick to the lane and if they can uh, give me what the output that I'm expecting with their own method, they become the best hire for me. My issue was I was not able to identify what I need. And in that method, I hired all the wrong people, and that costed us a lot of money. And that's what I have learned over the year, that not to do it when you are starting a business, because even if you can save a penny, that penny will help you in the future. So
Awesome. Well, it sounds like a good mistake to learn from and a good one to apply going forward. So second question now that I like to ask is, so now if you're talking to somebody that's just getting into a startup or a small business, what'd be the one piece of advice you give them?
right, I'll say, like, it's always easy to start without doing too much research on it, because I think as and much you do a lot of research, you try to find reasons why you should not do it, right? And when you try to find a lot of reasons of not doing it, you actually end up not doing it, right? So again, this sounds very philosophical and it sounds very idiotic, but look at the history and take any page out of it, you will find always the founders who started, they didn't know what they were doing, but they eventually figured it out along the way. I'm not saying that you should not do any research. You should at least do a research on whether there's a product market fit, and if it is there, you should basically start working on it today, because if you don't do it and if you see somebody else doing it, you will have a burden of regret in the future, which is not a good thing to have as a human, right? So that's one of the advice. Like, if you have an idea, if you think you can make it work, try to at least make it work. Failure is better than having any regret.
No, I think that's definitely a great piece of advice and a great takeaway for people to keep in mind as they're getting started or pursuing a startup or small business. So Well, with that, now as we do wrap up towards the end of the podcast, if people want to reach out to you, they want to be a customer, they want to be a client, they want to be an employee, they want to be an investor, they want to be your next best friend, any or all of the above, what's the best way to reach out to you, contact you, find out more?
Right. So the best way is LinkedIn. I am too active on LinkedIn. I don't want to admit it, but I am. So LinkedIn is the best place to reach out to me. Otherwise, you can basically email me at samir@catenate.io. And I try to reply to all the emails that I get. This is one of my bad habits. I like to check all the emails and at least try to converse with the people whom I think I can add some value to them.
Awesome. Well, I definitely encourage people to reach out, to support a great business, make a new connection, and if nothing else, make a new best friend. So awesome. Well, with that, thank you again, Samir, for coming on the podcast. It's been fun. It's been a pleasure. Now, for all of you that are listeners that are out there, if you have your own journey to share and you'd like to be a guest on the podcast, we'd love to have you. So just go to inventiveguest.com, apply to be on the show. Couple more things as listeners, make sure to click share, subscribe, leave us a review. Helps us to reach even more startups and small businesses to help them along their journey to success. And along that note, if you ever need help along your journey with patents or trademarks or anything else with your startup or your small business, just go to strategymeeting.com, grab some time with us to chat, and we're always here to help. Well, thank you again, Samir, for coming on the podcast, and wish the next leg of your journey even better than the last.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for having him.